All right, our lesson for 9.1 is about customary units of length. Now, customary measurements are the measurements that we typically use in the United States: inches, feet, yards, miles, pounds and ounces, cups and pints, things of that nature. There are other measurements used elsewhere in the world that are called metric measurement or the metric system, and this is the customary system. So we're going to start off with a couple of lessons talking about customary units. So today we're just going to talk about length. Now on page 343 we have a box that shows us some conversions. 12 inches is equal to 1 foot, 3 feet are equal to 1 yard, 36 inches is equal to 1 yard, 1,760 yards equals 1 mile, and then 5,280 feet equal 1 mile. So we can use proportions to convert between different units. So let's look at example 1, how that might work. Find the number of yards that are in 18 feet. So I know that there are X yards in 18 feet, and I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay, now notice I have feet in the denominator, yards in the numerator. When I set it up properly, I can cross multiply and find my answer. I'm going to multiply here and get 3x equals 18, and I'll divide by 3 and see that x equals 6. There are 6 yards in 18 feet. Okay. Example 1b, Alex ran 1,540 yards. Find the part of a mile that Alex ran. So 1,540 yards is equal to, I'm not sure, how much of a mile? Well, I know from the box on the first page of my lesson that 1,760 yards equal 1 mile. So I'll make a proportion with miles in the numerator and miles in the denominator and yards in the numerator, and I'll cross multiply. And I'll get 1,760x equals 1,540, and then I'll divide both sides by that and see that he ran 7/8 of a mile, which is 0.875, 875 thousandths of a mile. Now we can also do what we call unit analysis to convert between units of measurement. When we use unit analysis, we're using the concept that when I divide a value by itself, it's going to turn into 1, right? So if 12 inches equals 1 foot, 12 inches divided by 1 foot equals 1, and then 1 foot divided by 12 inches equals 1. Just like here, 1,760 yards divided by 1 mile just equals 1, because these things are equivalent to each other. So when I use unit analysis, I'll use what we call conversion factors. It's a rate where we compare two different quantities. So let's look at how 48 inches is converted to feet using the method that we've been using, and then also using unit analysis. So 48 inches equals feet. I'm not sure how many, but I know that 12 inches is in 1 foot, so I'll use cross products and get 12x equals 48, and I'll divide both sides by 12 and see that x equals 4. So 48 inches makes 4 feet. Now let's set this up using unit analysis, okay? So I have 48 inches, and I'm going to multiply this by 1 foot equal to 12 inches. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the the quantity that I want to convert and put it over 1. And then this time, I'm not making a proportion. There's no equal sign between my fractions. There's a multiplication symbol. So when I set up the next fraction, the conversion factor, that's what this fraction is called, is a conversion factor, because it tells me that 1 foot and 12 inches are equal to each other. I'm going to set this conversion factor up so that inches are diagonal from each other so that I can cancel out the inches. When I cancel out the inches, the only unit I have left are feet. So now I just need to do the math. Numerator times numerator, 48 times 1 makes 48. Denominator times denominator, 1 times 12 makes 12. 48 divided by 12 makes 4 feet. And I get the same answer, but I've used a conversion factor instead. I have to set it up so that my units cancel out when I use a conversion factor. Now, on page 344, let's look at example 2 where we're comparing proportions and unit analysis. So what I just did for you, we're going to do again with another problem here so that you can see how the two different methods work. We get the same answer, it's just two different ways to come up with that answer. On a baseball diamond, the distance between first and second base is 30 yards. How many feet are in 30 yards? Okay, so I've got 30 yards on my baseball diamond, and I want to know how many feet that makes. Well, I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. I've got feet in the denominator, yards in the numerator. Now I'll cross multiply. 1 times x makes 1x, and 30 times 3 makes 90. So x equals 90. There are 90 feet in 30 yards. There are 90 feet between first and second base on a baseball diamond. Now let's do that same problem using conversion factors. So I've got 30 yards. I'm going to put it over 1, and this time I'm going to multiply it by another fraction. This fraction here is what I call my conversion factor. All of our conversion factors come from the box on page 343. Which conversion factor on that page would help me change yards into feet? Well, probably the one that says 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I'm going to say 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. I've got yards diagonal from each other so that I can cancel those units. Now the only unit I have left is feet, and I'm going to do the math. 30 times 3 makes 90. 1 times 1 makes 1. 90 over 1 is simply 90. So the same answer, just two different methods I can use to find that answer. Skill check A on page 344 gives you the opportunity to use proportions to solve 3 problems and then use unit conversion to find 3. So you get to practice both methods.